And the Future of Housing delivers sustained, in-depth reporting on housing in County Clare to provide clarity, context and accountability. So each week we're examining a different aspect of the crisis, from supply and pricing trends to planning permission barriers, social housing allocations, mortgage access and the role of sustainable rural building, answering the key questions. And this week, John Connolly, homeowner of a self-build, Halka Lodge, an eco-friendly Nordic-inspired self-build located in the Burren, which featured on RTE's Home of the Year in 2024. And Ciarán Breen of Breen Construction in Ennis will look at one-off homes and planning permissions. This week we are focusing on one-off homes and planning permissions, and to do that I am joined in studio by John Connolly. John is the owner of a self-build in the Burren, and also joining us is Ciarán Breen, who you'll know very well, of Ciarán Breen Construction in Ennis, and you're both very welcome to Morning Focus. And John, I might kick things off with yourself if you don't mind, because you are a homeowner, you have a self-build in the Burren. Yep. Can you talk to us a little bit about the motivation to build a one-off home in rural Clare rather than going down the route of buying an existing property?
Yes, so as you know, I have a business, Hazel Mountain Chocolate, and so the site was within a stone's throw of the factory, so it made sense to build there. You probably know about me, but I'm very passionate about the outdoors, I'm passionate about business, and I'm passionate about rural communities, and so I wanted to build like my dream home in my dream location.
I was just going to say, if you're ticking all those boxes, the Burren will do that for you and you don't want to leave there. that is understandable. Ciarán, from your perspective in construction, I mean, how challenging is it currently to secure planning permission for one-off rural homes in Clare?
Planning permissions are freeing up. It's a lot easier now to get planning permission than it once was. And that's kind of by talking to other lads and developers getting planning permission. You can see a lot of starts, a lot of bigger projects are getting planning permission. But with the planning, it all depends on the location. You know, if you're unlucky to have land on the N85, you won't get planning permission there. But it all depends on the location.
Yeah, and from your experience, what tend to be the most common reasons applications are delayed or refused? And I suppose, given what you've just said there, perhaps location will play a part in that? Yeah,
location. The other thing then is wastewater treatment is a big issue. Percolation. If you don't have the proper percolation for the modern systems, you won't get planning permission. Design is another thing that slows it down, where, the design doesn't suit the area or whatever, like that the planners may have a problem with the design. But other than that, location, design, water treatment, they'd be the three main ones that I could see.
Yeah, and John, just on that, did you face any challenges securing planning permission for your home in the Burren? If so, how did you navigate them?
Yeah, so the house that we built, probably people will have seen it on TV, it was on Home of the Year. It's called Halka Lodge. Yeah, I found the council very easy to deal with. I guess they've got limitations in what the government strategy is, but I think in County Clare, I didn't have any difficulty with them. They were open to anything we suggested, and we definitely built a unique home that blends into the landscape. And I'm really proud of it. So yeah, I found it an easy enough process. Like, I have a hang up about how this is approached. I mean, I think every county should flip the way they look at things. I think they should be trying to attract people into the county. We should be fighting to get them into the county. I mean, this idea of ribbon development, like, I'm all for that. I mean, what's the problem? Like, why can't we build houses along the side of the road? I mean, in terms of, if you're going to say it affects the scenic view, I think that's idiotic. You just get over the wall and go up the mountain if you want to see a view. I mean, houses are meant to be along by the road.
Are you kind of tapping into, because it is something we've spoken a lot about with housing, and particularly planning and objections to planning. We know that NIMBYism is the word that comes into it. You don't even have to be from an area. I don't have to be from the Burren. I don't even have to be from Clare. I could look online, see your planning application. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't know where that stems from with this anonymous objection. I think it's cowardly. I think I don't understand the policy behind that. But yeah, objecting to someone that, I mean, maybe once upon a time there was some merit to it, but nowadays it affects everyone. So one person cannot hold up the whole show. And I'm confident that the Clare Planning want you to build your house. they just have to follow a guideline that's set out to them, and they're just trying to manage that you fit in within that.
And I'm sure, Ciarán, you have a perspective on that, from the construction end of things. I wonder, has it proven to be a thorn in your side in the past with projects you've been working on?
Not really. Everything I go shovel ready, and tis kind of ready to go. So, anything like that is done before we get in the door, unless we're looking for some of it for ourselves,
John, how do you think current planning regulations affect people wanting to build in rural areas?
Yeah, so say to look at the idea that you have to be from the area. I think we can all put our hand up and say there isn't an area in Ireland that hasn't benefited from new people coming into it. So I think they should scrap that completely, straight away. I totally get it that if you're a farmer and your son or daughter want to work on the farm, I think that should be prioritised, that you they need to be near their workplace, because nobody is choosing to farm as a financial, no one's going to get rich from farming. So people are choosing to farm because they love that lifestyle, and I think you should make it easier on them. I mean, to say no, you have to go down the road and buy a house that's 100,000 more than you'll be able to, in terms of building it, I think that doesn't make any sense. So, so in my business, I'm importing cocoa beans from small places around the world, and the narrative that's always pushed is sustainable communities. But when people think about sustainable communities, it's always over there. Over there in some third world country or whatever. We have to look at what's on our doorstep. Our community has to be sustainable in every respect in order for it to be, have a positive future for Clare in the next 20 years.
Yeah, Ciarán, do you believe the balance is right between protecting rural landscapes and allowing people to live in their home areas, as John has touched on there?
Like what John was saying earlier about having houses on the road, I couldn't care less if the road was full of houses. If you want to have, it is an environmental issue, but if you want to see the landscape, you want to see views, go somewhere else. Because you see, everyone's going to have a different view. An environmentalist will say there's too many houses. Someone like me will say there isn't half enough of houses on the road. So it's very, very, very hard to strike a balance in that area, but I'd be all for just keep build. Okay,
and John, as you've mentioned, people will be familiar with your home from TV, and just in terms of sustainability and design, your design was quite striking, and sustainability is a big part of it. I wonder how the sustainability influenced your design choices, from the grass roof to the natural cooling breezeway.
Yeah, so basically every day there's a car pulled up outside the wall looking over, taking photographs of it. Or
do you mind that?
No, I don't. I mean, initially,
do you feel a bit like Taylor Swift with a load of Swifties outside trying to grab a photo of you?
Well, there's a degree of that, but I don't mind, because I'm proud of what I created, so I want people to be inspired by it. And a lot of time when people are driving along the road, they're not quite sure what they're looking at because it blends in with the landscape. And I think if we were to look at smart development and construction and design, anything that blends in with the landscape is what you're looking for. You don't want the white elephant, the something that stands out and maybe is a little bit intrusive.
And it probably makes it easier for the problem you were mentioning earlier on, of people to object to houses because they think it'll take away from the landscape. Yours is less objectional in that regard.
That's what I think, but yeah. and I guess it's, everything is very subjective when it comes to design, but I was passionate about creating something that I was excited about. I mean, when we could, I was driving into Ennis today, and there's all these bungalows that were built in the 80s, and at the time people opened a book, like my parents, and they picked out the design. But now things have moved on, and you have a lot more scope for being creative, and I think people should be allowed to do that. So for example, when you mentioned breezeway, everyone is like, what's a breezeway? So a breezeway is a covered area that goes through your house. So like it might appear like a bit like a carport, but essentially you have your outdoor seating there, and you're sitting there in the summer, and it creates a draft goes through the area. Now, granted, in North Clare, breezes aren't in short supply. There's plenty of wind blowing in from the Atlantic, but there are days where I'm glad of it. And then, of course, if it's raining, you also sit outside. So the idea of that house was to integrate the inside as much as with the outside. So it's a house that the outside is part of almost the inside. And I'm really like excited to live there, and it's such a beautiful place.
I do wonder though, for you, were there any compromises or any trade-offs between the eco-friendly features and planning or building regulations? Were there any stumbling blocks there? Perhaps not, because it sounded like a smooth process at the outset that you mentioned.
Yeah, I found it smooth. At least my approach to it made it smooth, and and I did one thing. So, which a lot of people, we have a Halka Lodge Instagram page, and there's 20,000 people on it already, and we do a thing where we answer questions, so people are always asking questions. So I built an outdoor plunge pool, so it's like a small swimming pool, because I looked around, obviously grew up on a farm, there's water tanks everywhere, so every swimming pool is a water tank, and I said, well, why can't I do that? So I decided I will build a small plunge pool. So every morning I jump into cold water, and it's a great start to the day.
You're invigorated.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
God, I want to move into that house. It sounds wonderful. For the rest of us though, Ciarán, how long realistically does the planning and build process take for a one-off house at the moment?
I would estimate between 1 and 2 years. You secure your planning, which who knows how long that'll take. You get your prices off your builders, you secure your contractor, you get your start date, and then you have your construction time, which like most builders, and people don't realise it, like when they're building your house, they have to have other work on at the same time. So there is going to be downtime, you know what I mean? For us, like, we have to keep a crew of lads going. So you're trying to spin a few plates, so people, so by the time you come and go to it and everything, you're looking at 2 years, I think, anyway.
And even within that time frame, you get the planning secured and so on. Are rising construction costs making one-off builds less viable?
Oh yes, oh geez, all the prices went up at the start of this month. Every manufacturer, they all went up together. So you'd wonder what kind of price gouging is going on at the top, but most, I just done the figures on it, so €3,000 a square metre for a builder's finish. They were doubling prices 5 years ago, they're nationwide now. So for a 120 square metre house, which would be a 4-bedroom detached house, you're looking at between 360,000 to 450,000. You won't have your kitchen in for that. You won't have it painted. You won't have your floor coverings in. It's just builder's finish. So you're probably looking at about €500,000 now for a 4-bedroom detached.
Oh God, that's an eye-watering amount of money. And, John, it was a relatively smooth process building the home of his dreams, but how have building regulations and sustainability requirements changed the way one-off rural homes are designed and built, do you feel?
Like a self-build, is probably it's not the normal now, because builders are struggling to keep up with all these new regulations and all this new stuff. So the self-build, I think, is the exception now. It's not the norm. So that's one thing that has changed. The other thing then is they're making everyone build a top of the range house. It's like if you liken it to a car, everyone has to build a Rolls Royce, whereas a Ford Focus would do most people, so they're forcing people to the top end of the scale where people can't afford that now. So that's the one thing I would see about these regulations. I think, there's nothing wrong with them. They're great, but very, very unaffordable for regular people. Someone who gets to go into the bank to get proof for a mortgage, let's say 160,000. Where are they going?
Yeah,
they wouldn't build a garage for that at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately. And as you say, the majority would be looking more towards the Ford Focus end of the market, and they'd be the ones, perhaps, in your experience, who'd be more conscious now of energy efficiency and long-term running costs and trying to save in those regards.
Yeah, well, yeah, everyone is kind of looking at that, but I've seen the guy last year, he took out his air to water and I was talking to someone else recently that wanted to put it in. So it all depends on who you're listening to with these energy efficiency stuff. The biggest energy efficiency you can have is insulation and windows, air tightness around your windows, insulation, overdo your insulation in your attic, and your air tightness on your windows, and maybe exterior insulated plasterboard on the outside walls. But after that, then air to water, they give trouble. There's a mixed reviews on all of it, really.
John, just to come back to you, your home sounds fabulous and people will have seen it looks fabulous. How do you think one-off homes like yours can benefit rural communities?
I think it's important that they keep building. Like Ciarán, I think there should be houses. I don't like everything will come down the more you do it. So, for example, I was my own contractor, which I would definitely, if I was doing it again, I would go to Ciarán and get a price, because doing it yourself, you end up in a situation where you have an electrician, for example, or a carpenter, and they're coming to do the job. And if you start pricing around, then it's almost like you're limited even in how many people you can get to price a project, for a small part of a project. So it's very challenging. I definitely would look into, if I was doing it again, into a builder. But anyway, that's the approach that I took, and I was able to do it slowly then, bit by bit, which seemed to kind of work in my favour, because I can manage to get the carpenter in, and I can figure out how to do, say, the interior the way we wanted it, and then move on to the next the next person in that chain. And because I even took on the design, so I designed the house, and then Brendan Slevin did the drawings for us and the submissions and everything. So I made mistakes along the way. I ended up with a ceiling that I felt now is really, really high, but it's a big feature and people enjoy it. But also one thing that I used to think about is, when you go to a small house with 3 bedrooms, why does it need to have 3 bathrooms? And the other thing is en suites. I know these are just pet things that I've kind of come across in my limited building experience, but I don't get en suites. Why do you need to go to the toilet within 3 foot of your bed? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think if you are building a one-off house in County Clare, there's ways to do it that you don't need 3 bathrooms. I think 2 bathrooms is fine.
I saw you nodding there, Ciarán. Do you believe that en suites are more of a luxury than a necessity?
Oh yeah. There's again, a money pit, and all you're going to be in it for about 3 minutes every day, so are people too lazy? Say they walk 3 foot from the bed, you can walk 20 foot down the hallway to do the same thing.
So they're making reaching their 10,000 steps a day even more difficult.
Yeah. But it's they're all luxuries, and just because someone has them, everyone has to have them, and they're just a lot of it is a load of nonsense.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe just to finish, John, you've been through the process. Do you think there's enough supports and advice available for families considering self-builds in Clare? What advice, other than, as you just said, hiring someone like Ciarán rather than doing it yourself, what advice would you have for people? Definitely go around and look at what's being built currently, and then I think it's definitely, if you're able to get an appointment with the planners and tell them about your project, I think they might show you some pitfalls that you don't want to get tangled up into. So I think that's a good progress idea. And then in terms of the price is the price. You're building one house, you're not building 100 houses, so you have no leverage at all. So the best, if you're doing it as your own contractor, is to find guys that will come and do a good job. That's the main thing. Whether they're marginally more expensive than another guy, you're better off to go with the guy you trust and that will get the finish that you really want. Because a couple of years down the road, you're not really going to remember the pain of, but you will remember the pain of struggling with a guy where you had to take the doors of the windows back out again. Yeah. That's the fun that you never want to be there. Okay, final word to you on this, Ciarán. What changes, if any, would you like to see in planning policy to better support sustainable rural housing?
first thing anyway, if you are refurbishing a house, the SAI will give you a grant for all your energy upgrades and everything. The SAI grant should be available for new builds, for insulation, heat pumps and all this kind of new sustainable stuff. So that, like, the government should get behind that. It might take the blow, soften the blow a bit. The other thing then is, so I touched on this before, is about stepped standards. So you should have an A-rated A, B, C and D house. So where A can be the Rolls Royce, and then your starter house could be a D house. Won't be as warm, won't have as much insulation, but you'll be able to get a cert for it, if you know what I mean. So when you're selling it, you'll be selling it as a D registered house. So then it might make it. So then there'll be the starter homes, and then you'd have an option then maybe to make it go from D to C and up along, but not making everyone go build the best house, if you know what I mean. It'd be more of a step thing. And another thing too, I think they could do for new builds is they should drop the VAT, take the 23% off, or restructure VAT in a way that VAT is linked to the actual material and not the price. So let's say for instance a block should be 10p VAT or whatever, instead of going with the price, and then as prices go up, then the VAT goes up, and it's all, you're getting kicked left, right and centre from everything going up, you know.
Okay, look, great advice from both of you. You've both been through it from different perspectives. My thanks to Ciarán Breen of Ciarán Breen Construction in Ennis, and John Connolly, homeowner of a self-build in the Burren. Gents, thanks very much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Ellen.
This feature, The Future of Housing, is funded by the News Reporting Scheme.